Okay,
around,
I'm
I
sorry to
think.
have to interrupt you in mid-sentence, sir, but this is for digestion because, as I mentioned, America is just waking up, and Donald Trump has just woken up, and this is the statement he's put out on Truth Social. Let me read it out to you. This has happened just a few minutes ago. Quote, what few people understand is that we do very little business with India, but they do a tremendous amount of business with us. In other words, they sell us massive amounts of goods, their biggest client, but we sell them very little. Until now, a totally one sided relationship, and it has been for many decades. The reason is that India has charged us until now such high tariffs, the most of any country, that our businesses are unable to sell into India. It has been a totally one sided disaster. Also, India buys most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the US. They have now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing, but it's getting late. They should have done so years ago. Just simple facts for people to ponder! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Now, Ambassador Bisaria, I'll let you just take your thoughts on this, and then I have a couple of other questions.
Well, let's say good morning to President Trump on his waking up. And I think by Trumpian standards, this is what you read out doesn't seem a particularly harsh trolling. It's nothing new that he said compared to what he's been saying and his team has been saying. But I think the timing is significant. The images would not have been lost on President Trump. So I think this is part of the art of the deal as far as Trump goes. Not at all surprising, but India is learning to play the game, and India is not going to be changing its
Okay.
red lines anytime soon.
Okay. So, from what you've understood of what has happened publicly, sir, and which has been reported by many people, including us, did China give a little? Because again, in the Prime Minister's statement, he did not say we are hoping for peace and stability on the border. He didn't say we are working towards peace. He said there is peace and stability on the border. Has China given a little on the terrorism? Maybe had a strong word with the Pakistanis, made a political commitment to keeping the border stable at least in the near term. Have you seen them give a little, be accommodative?
Well, I would say it's a process that has been going on, and yes, this is part of the Chinese behavior that before a major meeting they do give a little. But I think this would be some of the outcomes would be better than expected, and I think the fact that the Chinese allowed this kind of formulation, and I think the thaw process at the border is moving faster than expected. Remember, we are not back to status quo ante of April 2020, but we're getting there, and I think that is a positive and must be acknowledged.
So, the obvious next question is that the arc of history, which was taking us in one direction, sir, which was Quad and Indo Pacific cooperation and China plus one and manufacturing in India, we still have a $100 billion trade deficit with the Chinese. They don't buy much from us other than sort of iron ore and a few other things. So, that doesn't fix whatever hold we might get from the Trump tariffs. So, what happens now to the Indo Pacific? What happens to the Quad? And can we hope to just put everything on hold for 3 years and wait out a Trump presidency?
No, I think that is being writing a premature obituary of the India-U.S. relationship. It's not at all true. I would argue that the arc of history is still largely going in the same direction, and I would still say that the India-U.S. relationship is a good one, and it's seeing a blip in the month of August, and possibly is easily retrievable by some good diplomacy. What we've seen is India's multi-alignment and strategic autonomy and multi-vector engagement in operation, that we are engaging without being self-conscious about pleasing one or the other partner. But I think there are limits to what we can do with the Russians and Chinese, and it is for the Americans to recognize also that there are the limits to how much the US can push us. So this is the game of the art of the deal, and I think we should
Okay.
calmly continue to play that game as well. With the US, I would say keep calm and negotiate while keeping all your other relationships
Okay,
going.
last question, and let me take a broader stroke with you. There is a contrarian argument that, okay, what Donald Trump is doing is actually recognizing the fact, which is something that you and I can agree with, that the systems of the old, the Bretton Woods institutions, the NATO, the UN systems, they haven't updated themselves, they haven't reformed, and actually don't work. So if he's taking a wrecking ball through all of this, that's actually good for everyone. What do you make of that?
You know, in the big picture, I think Donald Trump has been on strategy. His strategy has been to stop the wars, to stop unfair trade, and to stop illegal immigration. And he continues to execute that. But the manner of execution has been so destructive and so chaotic, and particularly his taking out his wrath completely unjustified on friends and partners. And this month we've seen the 50% tariff on India. So I think the wrecking ball itself is the story. I mean, it may have a larger purpose of reordering the world in a better way, but wrecking it in the short term is bad strategy and bad tactics.
Okay, and as you mentioned, by statements from Donald Trump in the recent past, this was a pretty factual and straightforward one. So he can do either three things. He can ignore this, he can double down, but after 50% tariff, it doesn't really make a difference whether you put 500%. Or he can say, oops. There are many people who will be advising him that especially the ones who've been patiently working in the India caucus, in the Indian diaspora, within the Republican Party. The India caucus, by the way, is bipartisan and is one of the largest in the U.S., who will be going, this is the worst case scenario that's been delivered. Nonetheless, Ambassador Ajay Bisaria, thanks for joining us. Let me quickly get Ambassador Muni and Professor Nalapat into this conversation. Professor Nalapat, now that we've had time to digest